Hey guys, welcome back to Resistance Chicks. We are your hosts, Leah and Michelle. Today is January 26th, 2018. I have to tell you, when Justin Hughes sent me the clip of George Soros, my mouth dropped.
I am the emperor.
I took it and I was watching it. I had my earphones in. I was watching it. And then I was like, Leah, look at this. And she goes, he speaks? That was her exact response. He speaks. It was like it was watching Emperor Palpatine in the Star Wars series. I mean, it was like it's vile. We shared this on Resistance Chicks Facebook page, and we had people coming back saying he's still alive. Like, I thought he, you know what I mean?
They put the blood of infants in his vein. That's how he's still alive.
Yeah. That's disgusting. So, listen, I think it is important if the evil is going to speak. Let's hear what the arrogant alien has to say.
We're only going to listen to 45 seconds of him, so it's not too bad. Actually, we're not going to listen to anything because
I had the volume on, man. Wait. I'm not one of those people that can move things with their feet. I'm just not that awesome.
It was on a second ago.
Was it?
Yeah.
Then I turned it off. No, there it goes.
Danger.
Okay, let's try this again.
Trying again.
Clearly,
Clearly.
I consider the Trump administration a danger to the world. But I regard it as a purely temporary phenomenon that will disappear in 2020 or even sooner.
Or even... No. Did you hear the kind of like guttural sooner?
Does he like...
But even sooner.
Does he watch? Has he seen Star Wars? Does he know?
He has to know. He has to know that that's exactly who he is.
Trump, I don't think you'll be around in 2020.
I mean, that was so... I wonder if you can just rewind it and play that part again.
Of course.
Or even sooner.
Clearly,
Clearly.
I consider the Trump administration a danger to the world.
Clearly, you do.
But
That's why you're spending billions and billions of dollars.
I regard it as a purely temporary phenomenon that will disappear in 2020 or even sooner. I give President Trump
The crowd?
I want you all to listen to that crowd
Listen
right
to the
now.
crowd.
or even sooner. I give
They
President
laughed.
Trump credit for motivating his core supporters brilliantly.
Those who we are going to round up and put in internment camps.
For every core supporter, he has created a greater number of core opponents.
You have
That's
created.
a lie.
You're training them. Nobody trained me. Nobody trained Mike Cernovich.
But they're
Nobody
not-
trains Alex Jones. Nobody trains these people. Y'all have to train people to get out there with their little signs. They're printed up signs. Where are they getting the signs?
But it's not even that he's saying that they're going to pop up like twice as much. And I'm like, no, they're not. Like, you can't even create or buy enough people. I mean, you just can't. It's impossible.
Listen, you can run the numbers. Can you put enough people in the public indoctrination system?
Uh-huh.
And you train them up. But listen, 50% of us are going to get out of the matrix, man.
I like what Baker Mom says. I'll bet he can't go out in the sunlight.
No!
Probably
He only
not.
lives on the blood of infants.
Who are equally strongly motivated.
No, they're not.
That's why
You're training
I
them.
expect a democratic landslide in
Landslide?
2018.
Who are you? You're Mr. Hungarian man. What are you doing in my politics, in my country? What are you doing all over the world? Nobody wants you. You lived off of the blood and the sweat and the tears and the death of your fellow Jewish compatriots. And you worked with Nazis and you laughed and you said...
He is a Nazi.
You said if somebody else didn't do it, if I didn't do it, somebody else would have done it. Okay?
Amber says, I missed it. What is the son of Satan doing now? He just has come out with
Oh,
a
no.
speech.
We got 45 seconds. We'll play it
I
again.
consider
Okay.
the Trump administration a danger to the world, but I regard it as a purely temporary phenomenon that will disappear in 2020 or even sooner. I give President Trump credit for motivating his core supporters brilliantly, but for every core supporter...
Sorry, you don't understand that the core supporters are motivating Trump? He's not motivating them. Do you understand how this works?
Yeah.
He has created a greater number of core opponents who are equally strongly motivated.
They're not equally
That's
strongly
why
motivated.
I expect...
No, they're like the Hessians or whatever. They're bought soldiers. Okay, they have no skin in the fight. We want liberty. Listen, liberty will always win out.
Zoe says, can someone manufacture a silver bullet and get rid of the poisonous toad slime?
Toad slime. There's actually something else that's very weird here. So Soros accuses Trump of seeking a mafia state, pledges to devote efforts to Europe and the U.S. Billionaire George Soros says he will now devote his efforts to Europe and the U.S. as he believes their open societies are in danger. You bet they are. And it's not because Trump, honey. He accused the U.S. President Donald Trump of wanting to create a mafia state. I find the current moment in history rather painful, remarked Soros at 87. Open societies are in crisis.
Is he really 87?
Yeah.
So he's going to kick the bucket any day now.
He has an hour speech, so I thank you, RT, for giving us the highlights. Open societies are in crisis. The various forms of dictatorships and mafia states exemplified by Putin's Russia are on the rise. And in the United States, President Trump would like to establish a mafia state, but he can't because the Constitution and other institutions and a vibrant civil society won't allow it. Soros' criticism of Trump comes as no surprise, as he has been a longtime supporter of Clinton. Soros Fund Management donated $25 million to the Clinton campaign.
And you still lost.
And you still lost.
Boom.
You had the Emperor on your side and you still lost. Because guess what? The Jedis have the Force.
Yes, they do.
That's a good versus evil. You're evil. This time last year, Soros called Trump a would-be dictator. No, that would be you. That would be you.
For sure.
Soros has been the financial backer behind the progressive movement MoveOn.org.
You know what? That's what Hillary just needs to do. Move on.
The Washington Post revealed in 2004 that Soros and his wife, Susan Weber Soros, gave $1.46 million to the organization. Among the emails hacked from Hillary Clinton campaign, John Podesta, and published by WikiLeaks, is a strategy document from Podesta's think tank, the Center for American Progress, that sought financial support from Soros for grassroots efforts. No, that's not how this works. You don't get financial support. It's called AstroTurf efforts, okay? And people will know.
But Leah, maybe if you buy the grass seed, then it's grassroots. So understand that, the roots.
Soros said previously his foundation has focuses on the so-called developing world. But now that the open society is also engaged here in the United States and Europe, we are spending more than half our budget closer to home because what is happening here is having a negative impact on the world. Yes, it's called illegal immigration. Negative impact. You want a negative impact? Let's go to Sweden. You know what? I'm going to show you Sweden in a minute. That's the negative impact of George Soros' open society. This refusal has created an incentive for North Korea to develop nuclear... the United States is set on a course toward nuclear war by refusing to accept that North Korea has become a nuclear power. This refusal has created an incentive for North Korea to develop nuclear capacity with all possible speed. He's the one that wants nuclear war. And so he also... And I'm going to try... Sorry if I don't have them all up. Here's the one I want here. Soros to Google and Facebook, your days are numbered. This would feel like it's fake news to me. Like it sounds like one of those things, that gets shared over and over again. And it's, like natural news or something. I like natural news, but sometimes they're just really weird. So anyways, Soros to Google and Facebook, your days are numbered. This is from MSN. This is real, I guess.
What does it say?
Billionaire investor George Soros launched a scathing attack on tech giants at the Davos summit on Thursday, calling them monopolies that could be manipulated by authoritarians to subvert democracy. During an annual dinner, he said, let's see.
Here's the thing. I mean, I totally have it. It makes total sense. You do understand that these media outlets won Trump the election, and it was not Russian bots. It was you, and it was me, and it was the rest of us that were waking people up. And Soros now sees that the sometimes if you start a little campfire because you want to roast some marshmallows and it gets a little out of hand,
the forest is on fire.
I think he just wanted to have himself a little campfire, you know, okay, roast a little wiener or something, I don't know. And it got out of hand. And it is everywhere, and you're scared, Mr. Creepy Lizard Man.
So he's saying Facebook and Google effectively control over half of the internet advertising revenue. They claim that they are merely distributors of information. The fact that they are a near monopoly distributors makes them public utilities and be subject to more stringent regulations aimed at preserving competition, innovation, and fair, open, universal access. But here's the thing. We actually kind of agree here, but for different reasons.
Yeah.
He wants to gain control. He says it's to limit their control, but he wants to control it.
Correct.
Right? Facebook was fine. Google, with the election, we were able to get some things out. Facebook was absolutely fine. We were able to get everything out. Google, not so much. Right? Yeah, so evil man.
So here's what's happened. He's realized that what he started got out of control. Mm-hmm. And now he has to shut it down. It's like Frankenstein. The monster you created is now killing people. Well, guess what? We're that monster that you didn't intend. He didn't count on it.
Interestingly enough, Google is developing an app talking about feeding news and fake news and controlling news. Google is developing an app to feed news and whatever propaganda it's pushing at no cost to local newspapers.
Oh, it's
effectively granting the tech giant control over all local news.
And I feel like if it's not Google, that's already happening right now with kind of George Soros and whatnot. And that's the way that you do it. Here, we're going to give you something for free. It will cost. So what is the motivation behind giving out something for free? It's as plain as the nose on your face. We all can see it. You're just trying to feed us propaganda.
So
the rest of the world might think, oh, they're this big philanthropist.
Google would effectively act as editor-in-chief of local of all newspapers.
They're trying to take over the world, literally. And Soros calls Trump a dictator. You don't think that Google is trying to become a dictator?
Absolutely.
For the entire world.
Right.
Sorry.
In short, Google's SJW employees would have influence over all of your local neighborhoods and news. It's well known that smartphone cameras have revolutionized the spread of viral news information. Just think of Walter Scott shooting in South Carolina, which was caught by cell phone. It's well known that augmented reality, such as Pokemon Go game, is the latest tech trend. Tech companies love it because it puts smartphone cameras in places that would otherwise never be filmed. So isn't it theoretically possible that the app could eventually offer augmented reality video capture that would encourage users to gather news by filming locations inaccessible to Google Street View cars?
Wow.
And this is Big Brother. This is like huge. I mean, this is like people talk about Mark of the Beast. And
and what I find disturbing about this is I have noticed in situations just currently when it's a tragedy, people are more apt to whip out their cell phone to record it than they are to jump in and help.
Right.
And to me, that's really dangerous because in a crisis situation, you need to have your head, you need to be level-headed. Not everybody can be there as a reporter. You have to be able to lend a hand.
Right.
And they're not doing it.
So moving on, we're going to get to Trump and Davos and all that stuff, but I want to kind of mix it up a little bit. Friday kind of craziness. All right, so remember the guy who sent the false Hawaii missile alert?
Yeah, that guy.
He is not cooperating with the FCC.
Are you serious?
No. Like, seriously, the person who transmitted the false missile alarm that terrorized the state of Hawaii this month is not currently cooperating with the Federal Communications Commission investigation. We hope that this person will reconsider. This is like all kind of red flags for me. For you, I'm hoping too. Like, he's not cooperating. Like, if it was an accident, you sit down, dude, I didn't mean to press the button. Sounds like he meant to press the button.
Here's the thing. We don't really believe in all these commissions, anything that's an acronym right now in our government, including the FCC, which is the Federal Communications Commission. So there is that. Let me throw that out there. I don't really believe that they should exist. however they do, and you have to comply. You have to work with them. You did something massive. Okay, have your lawyer sit in. That's fine. Whatever you got to do. But you have to tell them exactly what happened so that they can make sure it doesn't happen again, honey.
Yeah, so I don't know exactly what's happening here.
But the answer is this. The guy's not cooperating because it was planned. It wasn't an accident. If it was an accident, he would be cooperating.
Right. Yeah, so I don't know.
He's got something to hide.
Again, overnight, Japan's national broadcaster mistakenly warned of a North Korean missile launch before issuing an on-air apology for the false report. This comes just days after that similar mistaken alert that created a wave of panic in Hawaii. The governor there now vowing it will never happen again. Here is NBC's Jacob Soboroff.
This morning, employees of the agency responsible for 38 minutes of chaos in Hawaii are waking up after receiving death threats from angry residents. Hours before the false alarm sounded with a warning of an inbound missile,
if you are outdoors, seek immediate shelter in a building.
We had exclusive access to the bunker where it was sent from.
Let me take you to where the show starts.
What do you mean?
This is where the call comes in that notifies us of a ballistic missile launch.
Hey, how you guys doing?
Hey, how you doing?
So you guys got like the most important job in the United States of America, I guess.
State warning officers in this room are tasked with sounding the alarm in the event of an imminent attack. David Hafner of Hawaii Emergency Management showed us how the system is supposed to work.
They'll receive a call from the Pacific Command that comes in, and they'll make a decision to activate the statewide siren system.
Where's the phone?
It's right here behind us. This is
this one right here?
Yep, this is a encrypted secure phone to the Pacific Command.
The call to that phone from the U.S. military's Pacific Command never came. Instead, the alert was sent out in error, a mistake that turned to mayhem.
This is not a drill.
Glenn Martinez bought this shipping container to use as a bunker.
If it hits, then it's too late to do anything. So everybody just came with their food and water, and we just started stacking it in the back.
The state has taken the blame, suspending tests of the system and reassigning the person who pushed the button. Hawaii Senator Brian Schatz was among those with rattled nerves, and now he's demanding answers.
The real problem is that you had a system that allowed one human error to throw 1.5 million people into a tailspin, and then it was not correctable immediately.
For today, Jacob Soboroff, NBC News, Honolulu.
I felt like NBC was a little bit vague there on the process of it, just saying there's a phone call and then this message gets sent out. There are 5 steps that have to be taken before that message gets sent out. It was not my coffee spilled and oops, I pressed the button. Okay?
So, I guess the FCC is supposedly quite pleased with the level of cooperation from the leadership of the State Emergency Management Agency, but we are disappointed, however, that one key employee, the person who transmitted the false alarm, is refusing to cooperate. Yeah. Everybody else is cooperating, except for the one person.
And if it was in error, listen, I make mistakes all the time. Maybe not to that magnitude, but okay, sometimes I make mistakes. The best thing that I have, I've learned my entire life, the best thing to do is just to own up to it. At the time, just be, all right, what can I do? I'm so sorry. I will never do it again. I'm very, very, very sorry.
This isn't funny. Nobody got hurt, but like the guy is obviously some sort of like terrorist or something. He obviously induced terror. So he's a terrorist.
Kind of true.
Didn't he?
Even if you're an accidental terrorist, you need to
It's not an accident if he's not cooperating.
I'm just saying. Let's give the guy
And then, did you guys know the reason it took so long to get another message out was that the one guy who runs his Twitter account couldn't remember his password because somehow it's an automatic Twitter alert, and then he couldn't get in there to undo it or like to reset out a new alert because he couldn't remember it for like 38 minutes.
Right.
Couldn't remember the Twitter account for the Hawaii.
That will happen.
Emergency.
You know what? We all have trouble with our passwords. It's hard, we listen, I have a system so that I, can work through that. But, actually, Horatio had shared a cartoon on that, and I'm trying to find it really quickly because it was really funny about the forgetting of the password.
While you're finding that, I'm going to get this nasty story. Okay, so this guy, this pedophile, is charged with abusing 3 girls, says that he's a 9-year-old trapped in a man's body.
Yeah, that was disgusting. I could not believe that.
38 years old and claims he's trans age.
No, that is one of those like
Nah.
even if there was an established mental history of this, which I don't think that there was, it still doesn't allow
9-year-olds don't have sex with their 9-year-olds. Let me just tell you,
Let's
it don't happen. It don't happen, especially little boys. This is not a thing.
It is not a thing.
A Chicago man accused of sexually assaulting 2 6-year-olds and an 8-year-old.
No.
Told the police he's actually a 9-year-old.
No.
Trapped in an adult's body. 38-year-old Joseph Roman is charged with repeated predatory criminal sexual assault. Here's the problem with all this. 9-year-olds can't actually do things like that he's obviously doing in a 38-year-old body. So your 9-year-old is like, this isn't big, okay? Roman has reportedly confessed to some of the attacks to authorities. His victims were daughters of his friends. According to the Chicago Tribune.
No, they lived with him. Like, it wasn't just daughters. I mean, they had lived with him for like a whole year, and she would go to work, and he was babysitting them in the evenings, and that's how this repeatedly happened. And then, once they moved out, the abuse continued to happen after they had already left the home.
Prosecutors said the attacks began when the family of one of the girls moved into Roman's home for 10 weeks. Roman is accused of regularly assaulting them for 2 years, basically. The girl was 6 when the assaults began. The other victims were similarly preyed upon. The 8-year-old was assaulted while her family stayed with Roman for 10 weeks. And the other 6-year-old victim was allegedly assaulted while she slept in his home for 1 year. What? Who? Like, I don't know. I can't even. I'm going to move on from that one quickly.
Yeah, those are really painful.
Robert Mueller helped cover up connections between the Saudis and 9/11.
Oh, really?
Yes, he did. A report from Judicial Watch claims newly filed court documents further damage the credibility of the Russian special counsel investigator Robert Mueller. According to conservative watchdog group, FBI Director Mueller likely worked to cover up the connection between a Florida Saudi family and the 9/11 terrorist attacks. The documents reveal that Mueller was likely involved in publicly releasing deceptive official agency statements about a secret investigation of the Saudis who lived in Sarasota with ties to the hijackers. A secret FBI investigation that was hidden from Congress was also allegedly uncovered. Under Mueller's leadership, the FBI tried to discredit the story, publicly countering that agents found no connection between the Sarasota Saudi family and the 2001 terrorist plot. Whenever you hear, we have definitely found no connection, especially right away,
yeah,
that is an FBI, CIA, government cover-up. Or you just know it. So I guess the opposite is true. Agents found many connections between the family and the individuals associated with the terrorist attacks on 9/11. 2 weeks before the 9/11 terrorist attack, the Saudi family in question abruptly left their Sarasota home, leaving behind seemingly all their belongings, including their cars, furniture, and jewelry. Okay? The files were forcibly released after a Florida-based group sued under the Freedom of Information Act. Though the recently filed court documents reveal Mueller received a briefing about the Sarasota Saudi investigation, the FBI continued to publicly deny it existed, and it appears that the lies were approved by Mueller.
Wow.
Not surprisingly, he didn't respond to questions about this new discovery emailed to his office by news organizations who discovered it. Judicial Watch said such a development, which has been largely ignored by the mainstream media, chips away at Mueller's credibility. Now, put the shoes on the other foot. Imagine if somebody in Trump's DOJ or FBI had been caught lying. And it's like, it's seriously, what we have here is the weights and balances are out of whack. I mean, seriously, Republicans have highlighted cause for concern over Mueller's alleged objective investigation in Trump's campaign, supposed collusion with Russia. The FBI director's team has been shown to be overwhelmingly pro-Democrat. And then we know about the text, and I'm going to show you some more texts that we know about. Now, this is where we are going down some steep rabbit holes. I'm going to try to find the right one here, where they texted each other and said, Strzok and Page texted each other and said, we better go easy on Clinton because she's probably going to become president. So Yeah. Let me just play. I'm going to play Gorka here while I look for that.
Gorka.
Perspective, very simply put, one of the most senior agents of the FBI responsible for the Hillary Servergate investigation decided and put it in a text message to his lover, I'm going to give Hillary special treatment because, hey, she might be the next president. That is the definition of the perversion of justice. That is the definition of corruption. And not surprisingly, the Daily Beast is already behind the curve. We know about Comey, we know about Strzok, we know about Rosenstein. Talking to my sources, there are 12 people in this conspiracy at the highest levels of the intelligence.
Are these people mentioned in the memo?
No. This is not in the memo. This is phase 2. Remember, the memo is the tip of the iceberg. And Sean, I'm worried because the GOP doesn't understand strategic communications. If they don't release this memo now, they will lose the war in this communications battlefield because they're being diligent. They're being very cautious. But the fact is, you see Schiff out there already spinning. The Republicans are taking weeks and months to get everything double-checked. They will lose the communications war and the conspiracy will continue. Because these people, Sean, they're still at the FBI. They're still at the DOJ. They should have been stripped of their badge, stripped of their gun, and perp walked out of the Hoover building months ago.
How is it
Bam, baby. So, yeah, Sebastian Gorka said it best there.
Sorry, I'm trying to put it. I forgot to tell everybody that we were live on our.
Hey, you forgot to tell everyone we were live
on Twitter and Facebook. I'm working on
I'll probably find that in my my deals, but my links here. I got so many Trump links up.
Do you have the kind of explosive? I call false. I'm sorry if there was something playing. Sorry, guys. Oops. I bet they're telling me like, Michelle, there's something in the background. Sorry about that if there was.
Here it is.
The fact that their New York Times came out with a Trump tried to fire Mueller last June. Do you have that?
Yeah. So I don't even need it up. I can just tell you. It's
Trump denied it.
It's a nothing burger. He denied it, but the fact that he didn't actually do it, what is it a thing? This is what we call catch a mouse, or this is magic. Like, look over here. Trump was going to fire Mueller. Well, I mean, look, we just already brought to you so many different kinds of corruption. He had every right to, every reason to.
Yeah.
So it's really like a nothing burger.
He literally said, "Fake news, folks."
Okay.
That was
so. Here's these new texts.
He said, "I could fire Mueller if I wanted to. I have the authority." And now that was President Trump at a private meeting, according to a source, and so I think that's how it got misrepresented.
New texts between anti-Trump FBI agents show they wanted to go easy on Clinton because she might be our next president. On Thursday night, this was last night, Senator Chuck Grassley released 7 pages of text between Strzok and Page. These texts show that both Strzok and Page were interested in letting Hillary Clinton off the hook so as to earn the FBI goodwill with presumed next president. Page wrote to Strzok on February 25th, 2016, "One more thing, she might be our next president. The last thing you need us going in there loaded for bear. You think she's going to remember or care that it was more DOJ than FBI? The obvious implication here is that Page wanted to go easy on Clinton in order to curry favor." Strzok wrote back, "Agreed."
Wow.
"Agreed. We got to go easy on her. She's our next president."
I love that these people were so dense that even they believed the mainstream media that Clinton was going to win.
I called the FBI counterintelligence head, Bill Pressep, and relayed what we discussed. He agrees. I emailed you and this redacted name and the same. So if this isn't collusion to go easy on Clinton, are they going easy on Trump for nothing? There's nothing there. There is so much there. Okay, these particular, the whole agency at the FBI, the whole DOJ, the whole shebang, right? All the top levels of government were we all were like, why isn't she in jail? Why isn't she in jail? Well, this tweet here shows why she's not in jail. Because they don't care about rules or laws. Another of the text.
You mean it was a text message? You called it a tweet?
Whatever. Another of the texts from Page and Strzok suggested that the then FBI Chief of Staff James Rybicki thought FBI Director Andrew McCabe should recuse himself from the Clinton matter because of his wife's relationship with Virginia Governor Terry McAuliffe. She wrote, Rybicki just called to check in. He very clearly 100 believes that Andy should be recused because of the perception. So there was somebody, the then FBI Chief of Staff, who thought that McCabe should recuse himself, who shouldn't be there, shouldn't be in this whole debacle. And they all talked about it, and they're like, nah,
he's fine.
Obviously. Grassley states in a letter to the FBI Director Christopher Wray, in October 2015, then Director Comey said, if you know my folks, they don't give a rip about politics. So everyone is lying. Comey says my folks don't give a rip about politics. And yet they're undermining every investigation to make sure that Clinton would be president. Only by the grace of God, Clinton isn't president. By the grace of God.
They tried every underhanded deal that they put all their money into this, and that goes to show you, A, maybe just how bad they are at it, or B, just how huge the movement is for truth and for a change, a real genuine change.
So let's dive into Trump at Davos. Davos is a big giant meeting of elites and businessmen and world leaders, and this is where the globalists meet.
George Soros is not a world leader. Like, he kind of put his own little, like, I want to be a world leader, and bought himself a cap that says world leader.
Right. Yeah. So, yeah, he bought himself a cap and said world leader. Exactly. You can rule the world through money. I want to play to you just a couple things here. People were worried about Trump and TPP. I even saw our own Caitlin say that he, was going back on his commitment to get rid of TPP, which means the 12 groups or whatever, 12 nations getting together to tell everybody what we're going to do. And he's like, he likes bilateral trade, my country to your country, and not in these giant trade agreements, which is actually better in my opinion. Right. You need to go nation by nation. So I'm going to play a little clip here with this interview.
Well, a lot of people have given me an A. Somebody gave me an A+. Look, I got the biggest tax plan in our history approved. And don't forget, not just a tax plan.
Have you learned anything? Did you do anything differently?
Joe,
now?
Wait 1 second.
Okay.
I got rid of the individual mandate.
Right.
The biggest part and the most...
I want to play this first, too, because we know a lot of people affected with Obamacare.
Right.
And every time I hear this, it makes me happy. So... There we go.
Most unpopular thing in Obamacare, which really repeals Obamacare because it can't live without the mandate, because that's where a lot of the money came. It was very unfair to people. And we did ANWR. ANWR, Ronald Reagan tried to do it 40 years ago. I mean, everybody's been trying to do ANWR, and I got ANWR done as part of that same bill. So on top of the biggest tax cuts, great reform, and the money is coming in. I mean, the money is pouring in. We probably take in $4 trillion from overseas that would never have been able to be here because of regulation.
Can we talk trade real quickly while we're going? So we had solar panels, washing machines. I'm not sure where it goes from here. I'm not sure how China reacts, whether steel's
whatever it is.
They're grown-ups. And I think they understand that maybe we have some legitimate Would you going to stick with bilateral, or would you ever go back into multilateral? Would TPP, would that ever be possible to look at that again?
I like bilateral because if you have a problem, you terminate. When you're in with many countries, like with TPP, so you have 12 if we were in, you don't have that same, you don't have that same option. Right. But somebody asked me the other day, would I do TPP? Here's my answer. I'll give you a big story. I would do TPP if we made a much better deal than we had. We had a horrible deal. The deal was a horrible deal. NAFTA's a horrible deal. We're renegotiating it. I may terminate NAFTA, I may not. We'll see what happens. But NAFTA was and I went around and I tell stadiums full of people,
so
I'll
you might re-enter,
or renegotiate.
Are you opening up the door to reopening TPP?
I'm only saying this. I would do TPP if we were able to make a substantially better deal. The deal was terrible. The way it was structured was terrible. If we did a substantially better deal, I would be open to TPP.
That's interesting. Would you
Are you surprised to hear me say that?
I'm a little bit, yeah. I'm a little taken aback.
Don't be surprised. No, but we have to make a better deal.
I want to know.
The deal was a bad deal. Like the Iran deal is a bad deal.
Maybe NAFTA, maybe not NAFTA. Can you give me any indication which way you're leaning? Because there's a lot of the CEOs that have been on here, they all seem to acknowledge that it's 30 years later, and there's a lot of changes that make a lot of sense, but to not abandon the deal.
We have a trade deficit with Mexico. Mexico, $71 billion a year, right? We have a trade deficit with Canada of a substantial amount of money. I have a number, but they keep arguing. They keep saying that, so I won't say it. I won't tell you it's $17 million, okay? We have a trade deficit with Canada. We have a massive trade deficit with Mexico. Got to do something. We can't continue to do this.
Are you leaning towards staying in, or would you really go out?
I've always said during the campaign, and as you noticed, and as you've actually...
So I'm just going to play a few clips. When Trump says things like he's open, I think that for me, anyways, when he said, you know, he has these visions and he is the art of the deal. So we have to know that when he comes to the table, he has always said he pushes and he puts all his cards out there, right?
Right.
And then he's willing to negotiate. And so, you know, he believes that bilateral, you know, trade is best and things like that. One note on NAFTA, it's very harmful to the Mexicans. That's why they're in. That's why everybody's coming into America. We ruined the whole corn market. We've talked about this over and over again.
Right.
Our GMO corns flooded their corns. They had
like 18 varieties at
200.
least. I mean like the main ones. Of course they have, and we have more than.
But they had
the main ones
specific corn that they would use for feed, specific
right.
corns they would use for tortillas, specific corns they would use for all these different things, and they were heirloom. They're just really healthy for you.
People were
high
able to be
content.
on their farms.
And they were on their farms and they were employed people. Right. And then suddenly with this low corn, the low price corn from our farmers, who are killing us with the GMOs too, by the way.
Correct.
And they flooded it with this cheap GMO corn.
I think that there's a big misnomer or misunderstanding amongst people that think that Mexico has always been horrible.
Right.
It's always been like almost a third world country, and
right.
that's why these people are wanting to flood to America. You
right.
do understand that less than 25, 30, well, it was probably about 30 years ago, it was a booming, not booming, that's probably too strong of a word, but it was a healthy economy, and it was a healthy country, and people had families. Actually. Yeah, because they were able to buy and sell and trade amongst themselves.
Right. That's a healthy economy. A healthy economy is when you are self-sustaining within your own community.
Yeah.
And you're actually creating products within your own community. And you're able to have businesses and employ people within your own community. And that literally fell apart because of corn. Like, seriously, just because you flood the market and if you
did that.
We watched so many documentaries on the Mexicans, and with their corn, it was so different. Like, they planted their corn with love, and they would pray over their corn. That's not what happens with the GMOs and the machines. Like, they had a connection with God, so that's why my heart goes to them. Mm-hmm. And you have to feel for the people who have lost their jobs, who
not just
have
jobs,
lost their farms,
whole livelihoods,
lost their communities, all over this corn. So it's unfair on their part.
But it wasn't always the way that it is now, and that's what I wanted to stress.
Right.
It wasn't a drought. It wasn't anything like that. It was what we did with NAFTA.
Right. So Trump was in Davos, and everybody was saying that he might not be received very well. Well, he was received like a rock star. This is everybody with their cameras. All eyes on Trump. All eyes on Donald Trump. Not on anyone else. Just Donald Trump. Nobody cared to see Macron or Theresa May or Merkel or George Soros. They just wanted to see Trump. And so I wanted to show you guys that.
That's awesome.
Here is... I wonder if I want to just play the little clip or the whole thing. People were saying that Trump was booed when he talked about fake news. He wasn't booed. It seems more like they kind of laughed. And what I hear from other people, some things I've read who were in there, it was like everybody was mesmerized, just listening and like hanging on his every word. It was actually the journalists who booed Trump here for a second, but I want to play this for you.
And one other thing I said, and I saw it last night with some of the leaders and the business people.
Oh, this isn't the one. This is
I think I've been a cheerleader for a country. And everybody representing a company or a country has to be a cheerleader, or no matter what you do, it's just not going to work. And the reason I'm a cheerleader is because it's easy, because I love our country, and I think we're just doing really well. And we look forward to seeing you in America, special place, and where you are is a special place also. Thank you all very much. I appreciate it.
Thank you.
So that was him saying, because a lot of people were saying America first, America first.
Well, and he actually said, I want to put America first, but that doesn't mean that we don't still want to have communications and dealings and wonderful, agreements with.
I say America first, but not America alone.
Thank you.
Yeah.
That was me expounding upon it. That's how my brain received it.
Disproportionate amount of press or media, and throughout my whole life, somebody will explain someday why, but I've always gotten a lot. And as a businessman, I was always treated really well by the press. The numbers speak and things happen, but I've always really had a very good press. And it wasn't until I became a politician that I realized how nasty, how mean, how vicious, and how fake the press can be as the cameras start going off in the back. But overall, I mean, the bottom line, somebody said, well, they couldn't have been that bad because here we are. We're president. And I think we're doing a really great job with my team. We have a team of just tremendous people.
We're doing a good job. We're president. And you know what that means to me? What that says to me is you. When he says we,
right,
he is president. And he says we, he means you guys that put him there.
So, yeah. He didn't. I wonder if this is I'm just going to read the InfoWars article. All claims of booing are ill-informed. Only journalists booed. That's from the Telegraph. Laura Ingraham said, just now CNN lying. Lower screen reads that Trump was booed after hitting fake news. 2 pals in the room just texted the room was mesmerized. So all these, it was like the HuffPost and a bunch of people. Everybody was tweeting out that Trump was booed, but it didn't sound like a boo with me. I heard some clapping. I heard some laughing. I heard some clapping
and laughing.
And
if there was any booing, then it would make sense that it would have been just the reporters.
Exactly, it does absolutely make sense that.
Because here's the thing: there were only so many people in that room, and there really you could distinguish clapping, and you could distinguish kind of laughing.
Yeah.
All right. So that leaves 1/3 of the people. You've got the press. That's who's going to be booing because the press isn't going to be clapping at that. Or laughing.
Yeah, so he, in his Davos speech, which I'm not going to play all of it. I'm going to give you some highlights. One of the things he did say I thought was so funny, he said, I'm not Obama. All right, so, all right, here we go. Where's some highlights from his speech. All right, so. Here he says, like all nations represented at this great forum, America hopes for a future in which everyone can prosper and every child can grow up free from violence, poverty, and fear. Over the past year, we have made extraordinary strides in the United States. We're lifting up forgotten communities, creating exciting new opportunities, and helping every American find their path to the American dream, the dream of a great job, a safe home, and a better life for their children. It sounded like a campaign speech almost, but this is kind of like classic Trump, and mostly the reactions from the rest of the world were hilarious. There was a UK MP from the Eurozone, and Trump's speech was a disaster. He didn't talk about this. We didn't talk about that. I'm not sure if he actually said, I am not Barack Obama. I think that he said, when he said, I believe in America, I think Breitbart's saying, I'm not Barack Obama.
Well, I know that during that interview that with, what was it, MSNBC?
I'm not sure who the interview
with
was
the guy.
Yeah.
He had talked about how black employment rates are higher than they've ever been. I think Hispanic American employment rates are at like a massive high. He talked about how he has cut more restrictions than in his 1 year, or excuse me, regulations. To me, they're restrictions in my head. Regulations in the 1 year that he's been president than any president with even 2 terms combined. Like, he has cut so many regulations, and that is his explanation for why the economy is booming. And I think you might have played that clip at the very beginning, but I wanted to emphasize that because as small-scale farmers, homesteaders, we want all regulations, libertarians, to be cut. And so if he's doing it on a massive scale, I can see how when you untie people's hands to be able to do things, then the engine that is America is going to start revving. It's just going to. It goes without saying.
Yeah, at one point he said, I have to say, on the United Nations, we were pretty much out in the wilderness by ourselves, the United States, and we heard every country was going to be against us, and it was very interesting. I said, we give billions and billions of dollars to these countries and amounts to hundreds of millions, and sometimes into the billions for certain countries, and they vote against us. And I made a very simple statement that I'm watching. And I think that was the clip with Benjamin Netanyahu.
I have to say, on the United Nations, we were pretty much out in the wilderness by ourselves, the United States, and we heard every country was going to be against us. And it was very interesting. I said, we give billions and billions of dollars to these countries. It amounts to hundreds of millions and sometimes into the billions for certain countries, and they vote against us. And I made a very simple statement that I'm watching. I'm watching. And we ended up getting 68 votes, either yes or we'll take a neutral position, which was okay too.
Yes.
But, which was essentially a yes, is right. But we ended up getting a lot of votes that we were, I would say virtually we were going to get none. And we give billions of dollars away every year to countries. And in many cases, those countries don't even support us. They don't support the United States. Israel has always supported the United States. So what I did with Jerusalem was my honor. And hopefully we can do something with peace. I would love to see it. If you look back at the various peace proposals, and they are endless, and I spoke to some of the people involved, and I said, did you ever talk about the vast amounts of funds, money, that we give to the Palestinians? We give, hundreds of millions of dollars. And they said, we never talked. Well, we do talk about it. And when they disrespected us a week ago by not allowing our great vice president to see them, and we give them hundreds of millions of dollars in aid and support, tremendous numbers that nobody understands. That money is on the table, and that money is not going to them unless they sit down and negotiate peace. Because I can tell you that Israel does want to make peace. And they're going to have to want to make peace too, or we're going to have nothing to do with it any longer. This was never brought up by other negotiators, but it's brought up by me. So I will say that
are motivated by money.
The hardest subject they had to talk about was Jerusalem. We took Jerusalem off the table, so we don't have to talk about it anymore. They never got past Jerusalem. We took it off the table. We don't have to talk about it anymore. You won 1 point, and you'll give up some points later on the negotiation, if it ever takes place. I don't know that it ever will take place. But they have to respect the process also, and they have to respect the fact that the U.S. has given tremendous support to them over the years in terms of monetary support and other support. So we'll see what happens with the peace process, but respect has to be shown to the U.S., or we're just not going any further. Thank you all.
So I know that we have some anti-Zionists and things like that.
We got out and out anti-Semites. We have Jew haters on our channel. We just do. Y'all know who you are.
But here's the way I look at it, because I do know that Israel has done a lot of things, and they've cooperated with our military in doing a lot of things that are wrong, that are bad, and
what you're saying is they have blood on their hands. Everybody, America has blood on their hands. There isn't a nation out there, even daggum Switzerland, that doesn't have blood on their hands.
But the difference here is that the Palestinian people themselves, they're calling them Palestinians, they have become their own army. And they have taken justice into their own hands. It's as if you and I decided to pick up arms, and whoever we're mad at, we just start throwing rockets at them and bombs at them. All the Palestinians involved themselves in this. They're in a civil war with Israel.
Right.
And it's everybody in their country has decided to become a terrorist and take justice into their own hands.
Right.
As bad as our government is, I do not ask you, nor would I ever, to take up guns and just go randomly shoot innocent people.
Right.
Okay? Why would you do that? That's their mission. You know that you're on the wrong side of history. If your way of trying to hurt the man is by blowing up children in a bus. Okay? Now, I'm not saying that that Israel doesn't do the same thing on occasions. Okay, I'm not saying that they haven't done bad things. Our government has, and they have done it too. But it's all of their people are this way, and they're all fueled by this crazed Muslim ideology, and it's all of the people are this way. I know Jewish people, I know people in Israel, and they're not that way. All of Palestinians are militant. They're willing to die, and they pay some guy puts a bomb on his body and blows up a restaurant, and then Palestine pays their family thousands and thousands of dollars.
Well, I think that Trump hit the nail on the head, and I wish that this would be unilaterally enacted for pretty much every country out there. But we should not be giving money to countries, in my opinion, at all.
No.
Whether it's Israel or anything. But if you are going to be giving money to countries, you absolutely, unequivocally, cannot be giving money to countries that hate us.
Absolutely.
You just cannot do it. This is absolutely absurd. So it's about time that a president stood up and put their foot down and said, why are we doing this? And that's what happens when you have a businessman that looks at the bottom line and knows how to cut off the fat in all these places to save. Like, listen, why are we giving money to a country that hates us? Cut that. Right. Look, here now you've got $100 billion to put back towards America. I mean, it only makes complete sense what he's talking about.
Absolutely. So I'm gonna you can take some comments if you want. I'm gonna switch veins here, and to show you just to wipe your palate. No, that's not what I wanted to do. It closed it. That was funny.
Go ahead and get it back open. I'll read some comments. David says Israel has a really great wall. Redneck says, just like Korea, they're throwing a fit because we just don't give them money anymore. So it says, let's unite Europe, kick out Muslim scum. Sorry, it's hard when I scroll through these, it jumps ahead. Amber says, I'm so sick of hearing it's Obama's economy. Obama did nothing but give terrorists our money, guns, and soldiers. Could not agree with you more there. Let's see. Redneck says, we're not here to constantly bail other countries out. We want a better country. Fight for it. Enough said. Let's see. Andrew Night Owl says, the job market is fine. Some folks just do not want to work. Allow another to pay the bill. That's kind of true. Let's see. Gio says, it would be better to reform Islam itself, but you can't negotiate with the Stone Age. That's also true. Did you find it?
Actually, I didn't. But it was. Oh, here it is. This was just funny to me. This little CNN.
This is
debacle.
Creepy and weird.
And what's up with the girl here in the bottom corner? I don't get what's going on here. So
we just simply replaced her and put somebody else in the attorney general position long enough to enforce that ban. So
why are you subjecting me to this?
So
sorry.
Sorry, I just heard a voice in my ear.
I did too. Whose voice was that? Was that you, Elizabeth? No. Okay. Okay. Let's. Sorry, I don't know what's going on. Keep going, Walter. Go ahead.
So there's a lot of pieces floating around in there. Not all of them are conclusive. Some of them can be explained.
Let's get rid of the creepy.
We just simply replaced her and put somebody else in the attorney general position long enough to enforce that ban. So
why are you subjecting me to this?
She says this, and they hear it.
Sorry, I just heard a voice in my ear.
And then she says, was that you, Elizabeth? And yes, it was her. And then somebody realizes that she doesn't look very good. They cut her off because she was about to say something. Again, they cut her mic. And then the other lady goes back, oh, I'm sorry.
That was just funny to me. All right, so we're going to go over to Sweden. I'm actually probably going to take some of my Sunday stories here. But, all right. This is from Zero Hedge. As we reported last week, Sweden may or may not be preparing for civil conflict. The Prime Minister, Stefan Löfven, said that the government will do whatever it takes, including deploying the military, to end the wave of gang violence coming primarily from the younger migrants in the country's no-goes-ons. Yay, we're going to bring out the army. Here we go, take care of the violence. And there's nothing else we can do. We don't have enough police. He says, it's not my first action to put in the military, but I'm prepared to do what it takes to ensure that the seriously organized crime goes away. It just needs to go away. Just go away. I'm not exactly sure that your military is going to help. The dudes are still going to be there. I don't know what your plan is. I think you need to get some more prisons built. He says, adding, it's obvious that there are social problems.
They're obvious.
We see the criminals with total lack of respect for the human life. It's a terrible development. I'm determined to turn around. How you gonna do it, Jack? How you gonna do it, Jack? His comments.
We have some suggestions for you.
His comments come on the heels of a spat of gang-related murders, including that of a 21-year-old man in Malmo last weekend, shot in the head as he stepped out of a taxi near a grocery store. The same weekend, a 16-year-old boy found shot in Rosengard, a district of Malmo, died in the hospital next to a bus stop. 2 people were taken into questioning. On January 3rd, a 22-year-old man was shot in the Fazi district of Malmo, and the day after, an 18-year-old woman was taken to the hospital with gunshot wounds 10 minutes away from Rosengard. In Malmo, where a fifth of the 340,000 inhabitants are under 18, children as young as 14 roam the streets with Kalashnikov assault rifles with bulletproof vests.
Are you
serious?
The
average age of gang members is 22, the vast majority of them hailing from migrant families. Go ahead, Picture Gallery. What do you want to add?
I think your necklace is really pretty, Leah.
Thank you,
It looks really good with your outfit. I'll just say hi, everybody. Hi, everybody. I'm coming because this is a perfect example to see how the government is funding both sides.
They are funding
The
both
government
sides.
paid for all these people. They gave them houses. They gave them homes. Whatever. They gave them food. They gave them health.
Yep.
So that's an army. You feed and clothe your army.
Yep.
Right? And then they're feeding and clothing their army.
Yep.
So the government is funding both sides. So you guys in Sweden and Europe say, hey, government.
Hey, government. Hey, government.
Which side are you on?
Which side are you on?
You're feeding and clothing the people that you're attacking and making them an army.
Yes.
I mean, you got to make sense. This is total confusion, chaos.
Right.
So you're going to have a war with 2 armies that the government supports both of them.
Right.
So they got to stop this. And if you have to take the Muslims and send them home and feed them and house them there. Take all your money, give them some trees, give them some wells, give them some food. There's plenty of room in Africa. Africa's a huge continent, and it's warmer.
Yes.
Give them what they need. Take all those millions of people you brought in. Get a big train. There's that China Road train, right? Use that China train, the Silk Road.
Yeah. Maybe just shut that down.
Well, I'm just saying, it probably goes through Turkey. You go, use it, and just one after another. But send them with seeds, send them with clothes, send them with everything that you spend on them every day. Take your budget for the year that you're going to spend on all these people. And like Leah Michelle said earlier, they could take all that money and have 4 or 5 times more in their country.
It's true. And we talk about this again bilaterally, unilaterally, I guess is the word I'm looking for. All encompassing.
Sweden government can't complain as long as they're funding both sides.
Correct. The Rothschilds did that.
Isn't that
they constantly do that?
biased?
It is, of course.
They're biased.
But when it comes to fixing any problem that you want to normally throw money at, if you're going to throw money at a problem, the answer is always with renewable resources that people can build upon. Okay, you have a boy pig and a girl pig, and you get 14 pigs, and then in 6 more months you can have 14 more pigs, and so on and so forth. These are the types of things that if you're going to be giving and donating to, I believe that this should happen to anyone on welfare. It's like if you're going to be donating, you get a plot of land, you get seeds. It's make what you can out of this. Okay. You get animals. You know what I'm saying? Like this is, if that's what you're going to do for donating, or if you're going to give money, then you have to be doing renewable resources. Just throwing money at people is senseless. That's why when we covered the World Vision thing, you remember when they sent us like you can donate a whole daggum farm for what, $6,000?
Something like that.
You can send like a cow and a milk cow and some goats and chickens and sheep and whatnot.
So this is Peter Sweden. He tweeted this out the other day. Anti-tank missiles found inside a person's basement in Sweden, city of Örebro. Seems like hand grenades are not enough for them anymore. These people are literally storing heavy duty military weaponry in their homes. So here we have grenades.
What is an anti-tank? Is that like an RPG? I mean, what is that?
I don't know, dude. And so,
Chris?
like, grenade attacks have gone up sharply. And there were 0 in 2012. 0. There were 3 in 2013, and now in 2016, there's 34 grenade attacks. So, an 8-year-old boy was sleeping in the Gothenburg, Sweden living room of his relatives, was killed by a grenade thrown into the room. At least 5 children and several adults were in the flat when the grenade was hurled inside, and that was last year. And so, yeah, Sweden. I'm gonna have another video for you. Where's it was from
Where
RT.
do they get them grenades? Gonzalez asks. Anti-tank weapons on a Volvo. LOL, says Britt Baza. So what says a bazooka maybe?
A bazooka maybe.
Gary says a pig for every Muslim. I think that's an excellent idea. If we want to help Muslim people, we should donate pigs.
Absolutely.
You know, and if you have to give them, you know, regularly, like already prepared foods, you could give them bacon. I think that'd be a good idea.
Bacon.
Particularly in the large no-go zones have sprung up across the country, particularly in the larger cities. The report adds that a parallel social structure has emerged in those areas, with police facing difficulty carrying out their duties there. The League partly blames Islamic extremism for the problem.
They always are burning
Some
cars.
service providers have even refused to enter certain areas. In April, mail provider PostNord wouldn't enter Stockholm's Rinkeby suburb, citing security concerns. Rinkeby made headlines last year when police opened fire after a mob of around 30 people began attacking officers with rocks. In fact, the National Police Commissioner says the number of no-go zones is even higher than stated in the leaked report, and he also called for a change of approach.
Well, we see developments in our country which are not going in the right direction always. We see we have a bit more than 60 vulnerable areas in around the major cities of Sweden. And we see criminality there, and we need to turn around development in those areas, and we need assistance of our other parts of society.
Oh, sorry. Well,
Cut him off.
I was trying to click. I was waiting. Something was going to play behind it. All right. So
let's see. Terry says, "Do Muslims eat pork?" No, that's the big joke. It's not only do they not eat pork like Jewish people don't eat pork, but like pigs themselves are like worse than unclean. You can't be around them. You can't touch them. Zoe says, "I didn't lock my front door at night 10 years ago, and now look where we've gotten." Let's see. Worth a Look says, "Why doesn't the army just..."
Zoe is in Sweden, right?
I think possibly.
Aren't you?
Good call. Worth a Look says, "Why doesn't the army go in, get all of those who came into Sweden and just throw them out? Enough is enough now." Enough is enough.
All right. So here's a tidbit for you. If you're in California, California considers a $1,000 fine for waiters offering unsolicited plastic straws.
This is ridiculous. Remember, they have also already outlawed like the regular grocery bags that you get at the grocery store.
Cause and effect, from what I hear, homeless people used to use these plastic bags
to pick up after themselves.
Pick up after their poo, so now there's poo everywhere because there's no plastic bags.
Not right.
And I can attest to that because we use them to pick up dog poo. So if we didn't have them, there would be more dog poo on the ground because like you'd be like without bags.
Well, but we buy the little rolls sometimes.
I know, but sometimes we do. But like you would, you're at somebody's house and you need a plastic bag.
The point is they're trying to cut down, and this is, to me, in my humble opinion, going a little bit far.
He has introduced a bill to stop sit-down restaurants from offering customers straws with their beverages unless they specifically request one.
Finding the waitress or waiter
we need
is
to
absurd.
Create awareness around the issue of one-time use plastic straws and its detrimental effects on our landfills, waterways, and oceans. And I believe that.
Why don't you just
still? I don't think that
if you're going to go this far, whatever, just tell the restaurants that you're not allowed to do this. I mean, the idea that you would fine a waitress or a waiter, dude, it's just a job. You can make a mistake. You know, you've been waitressing for 10 years. You're used to somebody sits down and you drop the straws around, and then you accidentally do that. Like, seriously?
Let's go back to glass straws.
Yeah. We need to get some of those. They're kind of expensive. I think they're like $5-10 a pop.
DOJ blasts Berkeley will not stand idly by as college crushes free speech. Interesting. The Department of Justice filed a statement of interest Thursday in a campus free speech lawsuit against the University of California, Berkeley. The Department of Justice will not stand idly by while public universities violate students' constitutional rights, said Rachel Brand, the DOJ's Associate Attorney General. Young America's Foundation and the Berkeley College Republicans allege the university adopted a double standard with regard to free speech and particularly high-profile college speakers, according to a press release obtained by the Daily Caller News Foundation. The plaintiffs claim that Berkeley's high-profile speaker policy gave the university license to arbitrarily set curfews, restrictive security costs, and inconvenient venues. While the DOJ's statement of interest does not mean that it is taking an official stance on the merits of the case, it does mean that the department will monitor the situation from afar and with broad authority. So the allegations made by the plaintiffs in this lawsuit are unfounded, Berkeley spokesman says, but it doesn't discriminate, but of course it does. Milo couldn't speak and they shut him down and all the fires and all that stuff. I guess, yeah, so there you have it.
Brian says that in New York, your restaurants can't leave salt shakers on the table. What? How is that a thing? I mean, how is a salt shaker? They're usually glass. Huh? What, are we running out of salt?
Maybe it's because people steal them? I don't know.
But that's not like a waste thing. That's really weird.
They have
Very
like
strange.
They have like trans fat and like pop tax or whatever. They're big time. Okay, ready. Here we are in New York. Cuomo sues Trump. Tax cuts are hurting illegals. We need tax money for illegals. The governor says. Not long after Governor Andrew Cuomo promised free college tuition to the Dreamers, New York launched a lawsuit against the Trump administration over its nationwide tax cuts because they hurt the state's fiscal health.
Since when can governors
New York,
sue
New Jersey, and
presidents?
Connecticut are launching a coalition to sue the federal governments to reverse the unjust tax laws. We will not stand idly by as the federal government attacks the fiscal health of our states. In other words, our states want to keep raping our citizens to provide candy for illegals, but your tax cuts make us look bad in comparison. New York, New Jersey, and Connecticut have the top 3 highest combined sales and personal income tax rates, according to TurboTax. But the states are motivated to do so, despite the bad optics, because the money is going to illegals who Democrat leaders hope will replace working class voters.
That's true.
So Cuomo is like really weird. Just look at Cuomo's proposed New York budget. It includes money for the DREAM Act, which will open the doors of higher education to thousands of undocumented students, and will give, free college to undocumented illegals. Trump right now is in this weird negotiation phase. Just if you're a tweeter, if you're a Facebooker, if you're whatever, let your opinion be known. I know Trump was saying something about for the wall and for the e-check and for all his list of things, then he would give path to citizenship to 1.8. It was 700,000 Dreamers, now it's 1.8. So people are
doubled it, more than doubled it.
Yeah, it's not awesome looking actually. Let's see. We did that. This is cool. All right, so Rand Paul. I love Rand Paul. I love him. Rand Paul tells Christian students, government does not make us virtuous. Government is best that governs least, so you have more freedom. In engaging a speech to 90 Christian students, Senator Rand Paul warned that federal government does little to help morality, but libertarianism goes hand in hand with the principles of faith. Paul was speaking at a National Association of Evangelicals Christian Student Leadership Conference, which seeks to recruit and encourage young evangelical students to serve in government. Paul warned, however, that the system of government on its own does not hold all the keys. Far from it. Government's not going to make us a virtuous society. I think that's very important when we think about what we want from government and where we're going. And I just want to play some snippets from him, because when I hear Rand Paul speak, whatever he's saying,
wisdom comes out of his mouth.
I love it.
A lot of things together and work on a lot of projects together. You might be scratching your head and asking yourself, what is a libertarian doing talking to a bunch of evangelical students? Aren't libertarians crazy? Aren't they kind of scary? And I think it's a misconception sometimes because when you hear the word libertarian, you think, well, gosh, libertarians, they want anything goes, right? No rules, no laws, you can do whatever you want. And it's not exactly what we advocate. Libertarians do advocate freedom, liberty. We advocate government ought to leave you alone and that you ought to get to make choices on your own. But would that mean lawlessness? Would that mean no rules, anything goes? Well, even libertarians believe in some sort of rules. And so one of the rules that libertarians believe in is something called the non-aggression principle. And this is a principle really that when you hear it, you'll say, well, gosh, most government is founded upon this. The non-aggression principle means that under a libertarian society, if we had one, you pretty much could do whatever you wanted as long as you didn't hurt somebody else. So as long as you didn't invade their sphere of their rights, you could kind of do what you wanted. And you say, well, gosh, then there still would be all kinds of crazy things. Everybody would be doing heroin, there'd be prostitution, there'd be all these things. And really many of us who are Christian and libertarian believe that not only would you be restrained by government from doing things that would harm somebody else, but that a libertarian society or even a republic, as we were intended to be, would have some kind of restraint. And some people have described it as virtue. Washington described the beginning of the Republic, and he said it would be necessary for our country to succeed to have virtue. So you'd have the idea that the government would restrain you from harming other individuals, but there has to be something that also guides us, that keeps us on the straight and narrow, allows us to cooperate as a civilized society, allows us to be an advanced society. Think of it this way. There are laws against stealing, and there should be. But how many in here would steal if there were not a law against stealing? Oh, good. I'm glad. We don't have any thieves here today. But the thing is most of us don't steal. Most of us don't rape, murder, do all these horrific things, not because there's a law against it, but because we have a sense of right and wrong. Right. We have a moral compass. We have something grounded in religion. We have this sense of virtue. And you think, well, how many people have this? And that's sort of the question of where a society goes over a long period of time. Some would argue that we had more virtue 20 years ago, 40 years ago, 50 years ago. That may or may not be true, but there's at least some argument to that. Some who look at Europe say that they have abandoned religion and they've become much more secular, and they've sort of lost their sense of right and wrongs in some ways. So really you have to have both. You have to have a government that restrains you from harming someone, but you also want to have a people that is a virtuous people. True. There's a theologian by the name of Os Guinness, and he puts it this way. He says that liberty requires restraint, but the only restraint consistent with liberty is self-restraint. And so the reason why that's important is we often see, particularly from Christians, they come to Washington and they say, we've got all these terrible, immoral things happening. Government has to fix them. When in reality, it may be that there are some things that do need fixing that perhaps we can't fix. And I'll give you an example. The number one correlation, causation, whatever you want to have it, with poverty in our country. If we say we want to wipe out poverty, what's the number one thing that is linked to poverty in our country? It's having children before you're married. I'm not here to moralize or tell you, what's right or wrong. I'm just here to tell you that is the number one link. If you look at charts, there's a book by Charles Murray called Coming Apart at the Seams, and he does 2 categories of charts on everything, all the socioeconomic, all the income, everything about your life, and there are 2 tracks. One, people who don't finish high school and have children before they're married, and they're here along the bottom of the x-axis. And then you see at the very top of our society, the top elite, and these aren't all true, but they're mostly true, it's generalizations, people who finish college and wait to have kids. But then you say, well, what's government going to do about this? I can't make you wait. So really, sometimes when I agree with a group of ministers, they say, what are you going to do to make us a better, more moral nation? I say, well, what are you going to do? And really, there has to be some of that, and I think there has to be this realization.
And I would add to Rand Paul, that the reason we have lost those restraints is for 2 major reasons. One is the Federal Reserve, causing 2 family incomes needed, the taxation, and so moms aren't at home. Parents actually form the virtue in us, right, and form our moral core train up a child in the way it should go. And so when you have 2-parent incomes and the mom isn't there and the dad isn't there to really form a child, when you read the writings of our founding fathers, the fathers were way more involved in their children's lives, and they ran their education. You would think that moms ran their education, but fathers actually ran their children's education. John Adams and John Quincy Adams are two the most notable, and John Adams wasn't always around. He's a busy guy, but he led John Quincy's education. He had him read certain books, and then he had him tell him what was in the books and what he got out of the books. And
John Quincy Adams had to do book reports for his dad.
Yeah, basically. And he had to show that he gained it, it sunk into him. It wasn't oh, what was Sally doing, with Johnny and whatever.
Patriot Gallery.
Also, William Penn did that also. William Penn trained his own children. He taught his own children. I was just going to say, you started to say all this good stuff. But I wanted to correct Rand Paul also in that the public school is made purposefully to destroy children's morals. Absolutely. I mean, Rockefeller, Ford, they purposely did that. Well, I was just thinking we need to start using a new dictionary so everybody understands.
The 1828 Webster is a really good place to
But
start.
what does a Democrat mean when he says libertarian? What does a Republican mean when he says libertarian? What does a communist say when he says Republic and Democrat and socialist? They use Democrat Republic too. It's a Republic of China. It's a democracy.
Right.
Huh? It's communism.
Right.
And so what we see is people to deceive others.
Yeah.
Use these words one way or another. And our courts have been made to, I was there, I saw the courts destroy morals. Every moral law there was, you had to prove you had a good reason to divorce. Because children need a mother and father together.
Absolutely.
You had to prove why you were going to get married. You had to prove that you were sound-minded and you have your own free will.
Right.
Most people married today are pressured into getting married, and they don't marry because they prayed about it and God let them marry somebody. They just go find somebody, manipulate that person, lose a lot of weight, look all handsome, and find somebody to marry, and then they fall apart afterwards.
Oh, now you didn't.
This stuff happens all the time. Some girls go marry somebody with a lot of money. Men go and find somebody who marry a lot of money. I mean, you had to prove that you were marrying for the right reasons.
Right.
You had to prove that you were divorced. And like in the Catholic Church, I agree 100%. You had to prove that you were never married. Because you can only be married once. So you were married to your first person before God.
Right.
Or you were pressured into it. You were molested, or you were shotgun wedding, whatever.
Right.
Or you married out of lust, whatever. You have to prove that you never really married that person, or that a person had an affair to get a divorce.
Right.
We just have to change everything that the socialists and the communists purposely, and the capitalists, like Ford, they want us all to have cars. What was wrong with having horses? They say we're a third world country if we have horses. But things multiply. I mean, you were talking about farming. The American people put money into what? Multiplied. You bought a horse because it multiplied. You bought a cow because they multiplied. You bought seeds, they multiplied.
Right.
You didn't get in debt because you didn't have to. You bought something and multiplied.
Right.
And when you spend money, we become a consumer instead of producers, because in order to consume, and as you're using this dead stuff.
Right.
And you talk about George Soros, and he's just death. And you're like putting millions of dollars into Hillary Clinton, who's death.
Right.
What are you going to get? You're going to get death.
Right.
But, God wants us to put money in things in life. So instead of giving welfare checks, give land with animals that produce.
Right.
And so they'll start multiplying, then you stop giving them money. You stop giving them Social Security.
Yeah, stop giving them
stop giving their welfare and their food
Right.
stamps, because they'll produce in their own.
Correct. I could not agree more. And you know what? I'm also reminded of a time, I'll go back to, because you were talking about horses, with the kind of vehicle contraptions that go with that, carriages and so forth, wagons. But even with automobiles and tractors, there was a time when every man could work on these types of things themselves. So if you had a horse, you had a wagon, you had a trailer, and something broke, you could fix it. And now we're all dependent upon this mass system. But I wanted to get to a comment that Wilbur Slater said, the availability of credit has caused the need for 2-income homes. That may not make a lot of sense to some of you who have not studied the Federal Reserve, but it's absolutely unequivocally true. The only way we're able to have the credit system is because of the Federal Reserve, which has made us more and more poor and made us more and more reliant on this system that keeps stealing from us. It's the debasing and devaluing of our money that has caused the need for a 2-family income.
Right.
2-parent income in a family.
As you know, the indoctrination system of the public schools, totally, you lose all virtue there. Amsterdam, 1 dead, several wounded in shooting. Dutch police are responding to an apparent mass shooting on Great Witten Street, East Amsterdam, Friday evening, which has left 1 dead and 2 wounded. Dutch media have claimed that the victim in the shooting was a teenage male and the shooters were wearing balaclavas to conceal their faces. Police have so far not commented on the identity of the victim or the shooters, who are still on the loose. Amsterdam police released a statement Friday evening stating 1 man had been killed in the multiple shootings while 2 others had been transferred to a nearby hospital with injuries.
Wow.
So, you know, we have shootings all the time in America, but the reason we cover these shootings is because 9 times out of 10, this is an Islamic terror or some immigrant, it's, you know, shooting, migrant shooting. All right, so I'm going to end with this. I actually don't know what I'm going to be watching here. Jack Posobiec tweeted it out, and it is Poland's prime minister defends his migrant stance on CNN. So let's go.
More people in, like Poland. That country is legally fighting its EU migrant quota of nearly 6,200 people. 6,200 people. The country is a little less than 40 million people. Benefits a lot from the EU. So I asked the Polish prime minister why.
In particular, we emphasize that we already contribute a lot to easing tensions at the eastern flank of the European Union, because some people seem to forget that there is a war in Ukraine, and there is a huge population coming from the Donbas area to Poland. And these are homeless people. These are people whom we treat as if they were refugees. So
I mean, so you're saying that because you get some Ukrainian refugees, you shouldn't pull your weight on what the EU is asking you to take from Middle Eastern countries. When we're looking at the number, it is minuscule compared to your population. Is it not just because they're from the Middle East?
It's not about the numbers. It's about the methodology of how to best help those people. We are helping them in situ. We have created lots of initiatives and institutions to help those very poor people in Syria, in Libya. We are increasing our efforts to be there, to cope with the problems in the place where they are. On the last European Council meeting, I met with Paolo Gentiloni, Prime Minister of Italy, and he has told me that they were able to reduce the number of refugees coming from North Africa to Italy in the second half of 2017 by 70%.
They have been able, but Italy, as you know, is carrying a far bigger burden than you, Poland. And Poland is the country that has probably benefited the most from EU. But it's getting to its shores from North Africa. Thousands and thousands of immigrants.
Yeah, they have thousands and thousands of immigrants from North Africa. We have thousands of immigrants from Ukraine. It's simply the matter of perspective. We also have lots of refugees, and we believe that we are helping them through our instruments, financial instruments. And let's not forget, Poland was the most generous country in terms of contributing to the so-called European Resilience Initiative, which is being managed by European Investment Bank. So it's not that we are not helping, it's a matter of perspective.
Right, but at the same time, as I was saying just before, Poland is one of the countries that has probably benefited the most from EU membership in terms of what it receives for public spending, in terms of how its own citizens have traveled outside of Poland. There are 800,000 of them in this country, the United Kingdom. And what the perception is, to be honest, Prime Minister,
give those people.
but the perception, Prime Minister, is that then Poland is saying we want all the benefits of the EU, but we won't take 6,000 refugees like the EU is asking us.
This is not the case, man. It's the situation is that we are very much committed country to Europe, and we try to do our best to support different European strategies, different European policies, including the European defense policy. We are one of the strongest members of the NATO alliance, contributing more than 2 percentage points to the defense expenditures. And as far as the contribution to the EU is concerned, let's take also a different perspective presented recently by very famous economist recent years, Thomas Piketty, who has shown how much the countries of Western Europe are putting in the form of net contribution to the EU budget, and how much they take from the Central and Eastern Europe in the context of different transfers.
I get there are different ways of looking at numbers, different ways of looking at wealth transfer, but it's undeniable that Poland has certainly taken great advantage because the EU has wanted to welcome Poland. But there was an issue with the European Union that was very unhappy with the government because of a law that was seen as giving the government more control over the judiciary in Poland. In fact, they threatened to suspend voting rights for your country, and that you were brought in to kind of smooth things over with the European Union. Is that the case, and have you managed it?
Well, there is as little truth in this suggestion as there is ice on the Sahara Desert, because really through our judiciary reform, we are going to make our system more independent, more objective, more transparent, and much more efficient and effective. We will put lots of efforts to explain, to present our case, to persuade our partners, our friends in Brussels, that our system is not only going to be more efficient, but also is going to be more independent.
So that was a lot in one little interview.
Let me just go through some of the comments here. Let's see. Going back to what we were talking about, before I missed this comment because this was really funny. Gio says it's a pain in the, you know what? I used to be able to fix cars with a brick and a bit of string, and now I need a computer just to change a bloody tire. Zoe says taking care of yourself and your nation is not selfish. Is not selfish. Go Poland. John Daniel says Poland should carry no burden. These are invaders. Now, I think one of our Polish viewers that I can't pronounce your name here says, sorry, but it's just words. His own father said that there's no war between Russia and Ukraine. So there's that opinion there. So what says we need Visegrad countries? I like Poland. Visegrad, from what I understand, is the group of all 4 of the countries, the Czech Republic, Hungary, Poland, and so forth. Let's see. Worthalook says, what is that Miss Presenter trying to say? Poland gets money from the EU, therefore they should destroy their culture with mass immigration.
That is
very valid point there. Blaoa says, and the EU gets cheap Polish workers. Poland isn't just taking and not giving. Let's see. Poland cannot give in to the EU. If so, they slip once and that will be it. That's very, very true. Will says the GDP in Poland will remain stronger by being independent, no EU. I could not agree more with that. Terry Martin says, who does Miss CNN think that she is? Poland has every right to decide who to take as immigrants and who not to take. That's the way America used to view immigration. The unfortunate bit about that, Terry, is that because they are members of the European Union, and the European Union slowly morphed from just, unilateral trading to now we control everything that happens in your country because you're a member of the EU. So the answer is that they do just need to pull out of the European Union. John Daniel says, good Lord, there is accusation and defense of an infestation or invasion into Europe in English. How far the nations of Europe are held by the... I'm just going to... We don't use that word here on Resistant Chicks, but that's okay for you. Let's see. I think there was one more I wanted to read. Oh, Zoe says, Syria is safe now. Most regions of Afghanistan are safe for men. Africa is just poor. We can send them all back now. There's no crisis for their areas, which is actually really, really true. These are not refugees that are fleeing these countries. And we say it all the time on our channel, but it bears repeating because it's the absolute truth. These aren't refugees. These are just migrants that want to leave. They are invaders. They're trying to change all of Europe. Britt Baza says, how can a so-called democratic EU suspend the very thing that makes a democracy, i.e. voting rights to an entire country? The EU is a dictatorship.
So that word isn't necessarily a bad word, and this was trending on Twitter the other day. I guess I don't like it. There's this thing. There's a study, a CNN study, I guess, where you have several people in a relationship that it can be positive. This CNN article, it's cuckolding can be positive for some couples, healthy for millennials, and I guess
this is creepy. It's like a prelude to polygamy.
Yeah, it's basically a homosexual.
It's an orgy.
Deal.
Here's the thing: if you got 3 people in a relationship, 2 of them are having a homosexual encounter. Unless there's 3 of them, all of them.
So
it's just weird.
I want to explain the word CU cuck. It's cuckservative has been an insult of the so-called alt-right aimed at men they view as spineless and emasculated.
But I don't like the term.
I don't like it either. I'm not going to use it. The slur has its roots in the concept of whatever, it's called cuckolding or having an adulterous partner. I guess it's a real thing. The CNN in their article demonstrated a tenuous grasp on popular usage of the term, but according to a recent study by David Lay, Justin Lay Miller, and the writer Dan Savage, acting on these fantasies can be a largely positive experience for many couples and hardly a sign of weakness.
You know what? It's just wrong.
Yeah.
Wrong. It's just wrong. This is evil.
It's trying to mainstream this homosexual.
And it has to do with that movie that we were talking about and covering about the one guy. And he marries the 2 different, or doesn't really marry them, the author, movie maker, whatever.
Yeah, the guy who wrote Wonder Woman.
Thank you.
It's a reverse. So this is talking about 1 man and 2 women or gay relationships, and you should, I don't know.
And the actors came out afterwards and were interviewed about how it's this new beautiful thing. It's like coming out of the closet, where it can be a beautiful thing to have a relationship where you have multiple partners. And I'm just like, we are so sick and demented that this is trending. And it's becoming it's attempting to become a mainstream thing. It is not okay.
Yeah, they're saying that acting on adulterous fantasies may strengthen a relationship as counterintuitive as it sounds. There's Jasper again.
I took her out like 5 times, man.
I know. It's not your fault. It's not your fault. So it's one of those things where it's like, okay, I guess references to cuckolding appear in literature as early as 13th century, usually in the form of 2 male characters who fear that their child has been sired by another man during an act of infidelity. Today, however, cuckolding has been fetishized into a powerful sexual fantasy of some men who get aroused by the idea of their romantic partner engaging in some activity with another person.
That's not real.
This is not a thing for normal people. This is for the evil, weird people. And CNN trying to mainstream this is just as bad as, I'm not sure whether it was BuzzFeed or the Daily Beast, but they tried to mainstream pedophilia, and they had a pedophile on there saying, I'm just a normal person, and I'm not going to act on these things. I'm just attracted to children. Okay, that's the same twisted horse poop that this is.
Patriot gallery.
Again, it comes down to breaking down your morals. If you break down people's morals and you got in, that goes back to Rand Paul.
Desensitization.
Then they don't have their own ability to self-govern.
Exactly.
You know, he was talking about govern
If you're
yourself.
not a moral and a virtuous people, then you can't self-govern because you're going to hurt other people.
And we have to remember that there are a group of people in Europe, especially England. There's a group of people in America. There's a group of people in the Muslim society who love slavery. Now, they're breaking people down to bring back slavery. And your children can be slaves too. Pedophilia. And so this is all about how I heard somebody saying earlier today on a video that Hillary Clinton broke down, was it Libya, I think? And they sell slaves.
Yes.
Everybody's become, slavery's legal in Muslim countries.
Yes.
And so we really have to unite. And if EU wants to say they're great, then they're great in destroying slavery. But they're not. They bring all these Muslims in because the EU believes in slavery.
Absolutely.
Ford, slavery. Rockefeller,
Slavery.
It's all about making people into slaves, and you got to be really careful and get the definition. What do you really mean by that? Don't just say, "Oh, that person sounded so nice. I agree with them," but they might be total opposite of what you think.
Right.
And I was gonna say, I like what Brother Jim on End Time Prophecy says, because he always says this. He doesn't really.
He's a great guy, by the way.
He doesn't use these words. He'll just say the Sodomites.
I know.
Because that's what they are. They are sodomites, like Sodom and Gomorrah.
Right.
They believe in things that are not moral. And it's the same with those who are Muslim or Islam. They are sodomites. That is, they believe in selling children, marrying girls off at 4 or 5 years old.
Yes.
It's the same thing. They believe in abusing children and that women are just slaves. And then the show was showing that in the Quran, black people are nothing but slaves.
That's true.
They are lower. It's in the Quran. So Muslim religion does believe in black slavery.
Right.
Ange wants to know, will we get to see your mum girls? And the answer to that is we said, here comes her little hand.
Hi.
She doesn't want to be on camera, but my thing is, I think we will drag her on camera once we hit 100,000 subscribers.
That would be amazing.
I have no worries.
I have no worries.
Thanks, Mom. She says I have no worries. Oh, man, the vote of confidence there is just so great.
I think that George Soros has definitely blocked our channel from ever reaching that.
You know what, though?
We definitely could have. We actually should probably be at least halfway there if it wasn't for...
I will tell you something really interesting. I think I figured something out. And it's okay. I don't really mind because God takes care of us and you guys and whatnot. But there was the one channel that we were showcasing. After they go live, their subscribership drops.
Right.
And I've noticed on our Mass Faith 3 channel, since we have not been going live, our subscribership has been steadily increasing. And so I think it's because after you go live, they drop your subscribers.
What?
So
that's insane.
I find it really fascinating that our subscribers are kind of maintaining. Here, do you want me to put this up here?
No, you're not. It doesn't reach. It won't reach. The cord won't reach.
Okay. I'm sorry.
I know.
Good try.
I know.
All right. Here, come here, Jasper.
Oh, it's not long enough. Jasper. She's getting Jasper. I wonder if I can just like...
She's an old lady. She gets
like
80 million potty breaks. Yes, she does.
Okay. She does, yeah. All right. So
What did you
this song
decide?
came to me,
Okay.
and I still don't have enough room.
I gave you... Here, just unplug this. It doesn't have to be on the TV behind us,
Oh.
right?
Yeah, it's nice for other people to have the words, though.
You can't read them from that far away. That's why I was
still-
thinking I could put this up here.
Okay, then you can put it up there.
Right. Little rearranging.
So many
It's
chords.
fine.
So many
You could even unplug
chords.
that. That doesn't have to be up there.
I really hope I don't bang this guitar one day on this thing. I keep doing it. I can't move it. Like, it still don't have enough room.
I got it. Man, you've played before. And
I
can
just,
back it up
it's
that
like,
far?
seriously, have no room.
Okay, now I have to very carefully move this
I
because
know.
there's 2 laptops on it. Do you have enough
Yeah.
room now?
Yep.
Okay.
So, good news. Tell them good news or bad news. Well, it's good news. You got a letter. You got a note.
Oh, well, yeah. I have been hearing back from,
My thing is twisted.
From YouTube. So, it's still twisted. Ah, wait. What happened?
I don't know. Sometimes it just gets over twisted,
Okay.
and I'll have to like undo it and then redo it or something.
Don't do it on the button. Can you do it there?
No.
Yeah, that one's probably easier.
Okay.
But here. Patience. All right, so I've been hearing back from YouTube. I'm getting emails. They are saying that they are still working on our issue. That they have.
Not that they're still working on the issue.
The engineers.
They found out what's wrong.
Well, no, they didn't
Well, they
exactly
kinda did.
say that. I will read you the. Oh, wait, where'd it go? Let's see. Appreciate your patience while we were working on your request. I appreciate you taking the time to let us know about the details of this technical issue you're experiencing regarding your live streaming. The better we understand the issue, the better we can work towards a solution. Our engineers are aware of the problem and working hard to resolve it. At the moment, I'm unable to provide a specific timeline for a solution. However, once our engineers have applied the fix, I guess you're right, it will be automatically implemented in our systems. Appreciate your understanding. Now, the way that we have translated that is the bug is this protest by Channel 4 for everyone that has played this video. And now they're trying to, the copyright, them crying wah wah wah.
And once they do, it'll be whatever it is, whatever this bug is like bigger than just our channel. So it's bugging me. All right, so this is a song called "We Are One in the Spirit, We Are One in the Lord." This is the only song I came up with at the last minute.
I want to put this like here.
Okay.
So, can you still see it?
Yeah.
We play it. I'll find it.
In the Spirit, we are one in the Lord. We are one in the Spirit. We are one in the Lord. And
it just went blank. It totally went blank. I know why it went blank because it's not plugged into the HDMI. I'll keep moving it.
And they'll know we are Christians by our love, yes, they'll know we are Christians by our love. We will walk with each other, we will walk hand in hand, we will walk with each other, we will walk hand in hand, and together we'll spread the news that God is in our land, and they'll know we are Christians by our love, yes, they'll know we are Christians by our love. We will work with each other, we will work side by side, we will work with each other, we will work side by side, and we'll guide each man's dignity and save each man's pride, and they'll know we are Christians by our love, yes, they'll know we are Christians by our love. We are one in the Spirit, we are one in the Lord, we are one in the Spirit, we are one in the Lord, and we pray that all unity may one day be restored, and they'll know we are Christians by our love, yes, they'll know we are Christians by our love.
Can we pick up the bass?
We will walk with each other, we will walk hand in hand, we will walk with each other, we other. We will work side by side. We will work with each other. We will work side by side. And we'll guard each man's dignity and save each man's pride. And they'll know we are Christians by our love, by our love. Yes, they'll know we are Christians by our love. We are one in the Spirit. We are one in the Lord. We are one in the Spirit. We are one in the Lord. And we pray that all unity may one day be restored. And they'll know we are Christians by our love, by our love. Yes, they'll know we are Christians by our love. And they'll know we are Christians by our love. Very good. That was really fun. I'm glad you came up with that song.
I like that song.
Some songs we can play without practicing. Look at there, Kenneth. So thank you guys for being with us today, this evening. We go live every Friday evening at 6 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and every Sunday at 1 p.m. Eastern Standard Time for our European and UK news coverage. We absolutely love our Sunday show and our Friday evenings with you guys. So thank you for spending your Friday evening with us. I want to thank our moderators. Everybody, it seems, was here today. Will, Maia, Gary, Kelly, Amber was here in the beginning. Sooks. You guys are fantastic. Thanks for being here and being moderators even on our Resistance Chicks channel. There were a lot of really great comments. I know I say that all the time, but it's true. And I want you to leave them after the video processes in the comments section. We have a P.O. Box. If you want to submit your letters, we'll read them on air. P.O. Box 107, Milford, Ohio, 45150. You can just address it to Resistance Chicks and it'll come to us. Remember, it's not just a conspiracy theory.
It's the truth, my friend.
So like and comment and subscribe to this channel, Resistance Chicks, and our channel, Mass Faith 3.
I got Faith will be back on Sunday, but we never know.
You know what?
Doesn't
God
matter.
can
It don't matter.
move.
It don't matter. Y'all show up. Y'all like, we moved the party down the street. We're like, okay, let's go down the street.
I love that analogy. That's, you know, there weren't as many people here tonight as there have been recently on our Resistance Chicks channel, but that chat was hopping. I couldn't keep up with it.
Couldn't keep up with it.
People that were here, it just kept going. So, I want to really quickly, if I may, there are about 30 of you, 10 hardcore specifics, I'm not going to name names, that if I could give a wrench to, I would. But then the entire chat would be all blue wrenches. So if you feel like you should have a wrench, you probably should. And I know who you are, and I wish I could hand out wrenches to everybody.
And then all the new people be like, what is this group?
I've been to channels where they say they'll just give a wrench to anybody on this channel, which isn't true, but there are so many of you guys that are Aaron, our good friend Aaron, who's here, real life. Not that you guys aren't real life, but
you never know if we get hit like again. It's bam, bam, bam. Got to dot.
If I could give out wrenches to all of you, I would. So I thank you. So in my opinion, even though you haven't been given a wrench, you are every bit as important. Everybody in the chat knows who you guys are because you're here every single time we go live. I love you guys for that.
Thank you.
So we're gonna sign off here, and we will see you for sure on Sunday. Probably not tomorrow, but you never know, unless there's some sort of bombing or, you know, some legitimate reason to go live. So what says, I want a golden wrench. I want a golden ticket. That Willy Wonka. All right. So we're going to sign off. We're going to go eat dinner. Leah says I shouldn't talk about food at the end. She says, Michelle, you get hungry at the end. There were people. Chris Holman left to go get food. That shows how important we are. I didn't leave to go get food. Not did I? I mean, you don't know when I'm leaving. They're behind the camera. I'm grabbing food. It's just kidding. All right, you guys. We love you. God bless.
I was cold, all alone. No place for her.